Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 30 of the Deercast. We are joined by Mr. Blue Steel himself, Mark Lauritson from Outfit International. If any of you don't know what Mark looks like, and you won't do because you're listening to this as a podcast, go on the Harkila or Sealand websites, and the incredibly good-looking man looking sort of wishfully off into the distance, modelling most of the clothing, is Mark. So Mark is one of the brand managers at Outfit International, looking after Harkila and Sealand. He also happens to be a good friend of Harry and mine. He came over in March to help us with the fallow cull. I think didn't actually end up shooting a single fallow, mainly because we just didn't see any, but ended up murdering a lot of muntjac, didn't you?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Although somehow, because you shot a nice muntjac buck with me, but we still haven't actually managed to get the head out to Denmark yet. But hopefully one day it'll be out there with you. But big thank you to Mark for joining us. So Mark, how did you get into hunting?
Yeah, so thanks for having me. I was brought up in a family of hunters. It was actually my grandfather on my mother's side. He was a hunter, and he was so, I wouldn't say unfortunate in these times, but he had two girls, and when they were younger, he would always take them hunting. But when they sort of got into their teens, they lost interest. So when my mother got two boys, he was like snatched us up and took us hunting. So that's how I came into it, and so I followed him around since I was like 5, 6, many. And then when I was old enough here in Denmark, you have to be 16 to get your license. I took my license, and then it just took off. And now it's basically both a hobby and a job.
So and I'm sorry for like diving straight into it, but you say you got your license at 16, which is that your firearms license or your hunting license, or is in Denmark is that one and the same thing?
It's one and the same thing. When you take the hunting license, when I took it, you didn't have to pass a shooting test. They have to today with the shotgun. So when you take your hunting license and pass, you're allowed to go, or I was allowed to go shotgun hunting, and then you have to take an additional course if you want to shoot rifle. Very easy. And today they added a test on the shotgun part, so you have to pass a shooting test on that as well.
That's
really
interesting, because here in the UK, you apply for like your license with or your certificate with the police, they grant it to you, but you don't necessarily have to prove you're competent with it or that you've got any knowledge about it.
No. I actually thought it was more difficult for you guys.
Maybe it is. I mean, I went to school with some German guys, and they I remember them studying for weeks and weeks this like enormous Bible they got. I think when they were about 16 or something like that, and it was like a sort of month-long process for them getting their kind of hunting license. I think it might have been all sort of lumped into one thing. It sounds like it was sort of slightly similar, but is it, what's the sort of hunting aspect to it? Because obviously in this country you have your firearms license, and then you have your deer stalking, not license, but we have our sort of competent deer stalking qualifications level 1 and 2. Is it like sort of very in depth or sort of quite easy?
I'd say it's probably closer to the German version. It ends in an exam with a test with 40 questions, and you have to answer 36 correct. And that's anything from like rules for which type of ammo is allowed to use for shooting red deer or foxes, or how many eggs does a seagull lay, and there's also pictures in the test where you have to like, it's a multiple choice where you have to like, is this a red kite or is it a buzzard or whatever. And if you pass that part, you go on to the practical test, which is sort of like a course where you are followed around by an instructor. You start by selecting a shotgun in a rack, and then you show that you can probably pick it up and check that it's empty. He will give you two not real cartridges, and then you show like you can load it, close it, handle, walk with it properly. You have to pass a fence. You have to open the gun, take out the ammunition, cross the fence, and then cross a little stream afterwards where you do the same. Then there are 6 stations with a range where there's some sort of animal at the end. It could be a duck or a fox or something. And then they'll ask you, would you shoot that? And then you have, I believe it's 6 seconds to answer yes or no. You can only have 1 wrong in that out of 6. If you pass that, you go on to the final station where you actually have to shoot. As I remember, it's 4 or 6 shots at clay targets. You don't have to hit them, but you have to show that you can fire, reload, and fire and reload in a safe way. And if you do that, the final thing is you have to hand over the shotgun to the instructor, so you show that you can hand a gun to another person in a safe way.
It's quite in depth, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's only like now. Back in my days, when I passed that, I was allowed to go hunting with a shotgun. Now they get a license, but on that license it says not valid for hunting, which is a bit odd. And then they have to do a shotgun shooting test where they have to pass, I think it's 3 stations, right and left, and then I don't know what you call them, but like clays that are going away from you.
You're talking to 2 people who are, well, you've witnessed me firsthand shoot a shotgun, who are terrible at shooting with shotguns. To me, is it an outgoer going
it's
away?
Like sort of walked up, isn't it?
Yeah. It going away, we can call it that. And you have to hit at least 2 at each station,
right,
to pass. And yeah, so it's quite a lot, but I think it's good. I'm happy that we didn't have the shotgun shooting test when I was taking my course, but because nerves also plays a big part. I have a lot of colleagues who come into the company who aren't hunters, but then they sort of get into it and then they take their course, and I can understand that nerves play in a lot when you have to do the shooting part. But I would say that when they actually are out there on their first hunt, they are much more well prepared and way better shots than I was on my first many hunts. So I think it's good for them to get a better experience, and it's also, of course, good for the wildlife that we're not injuring unnecessary because we have inexperienced shooters.
And a real like technical question.
Yeah.
Say someone wants to go out and shoot deer with a rifle. Do they have to do the shotgun bit first and then do the rifle add-on, or can they skip the shotgun bit and go straight to the rifle bit?
They can skip it now. To begin with, you had to take the shotgun part first, and then you could add on the rifle part. But then a lot of people, I guess, they complained that they were not into shotgun shooting, so it felt like a bit of a waste to have to go and buy a shotgun and also go to the gun range and use tons of money to get good enough, only to pass the test, sell the gun or whatever, to buy a rifle and then go do that. So now you're allowed to switch if you want.
Yeah. And could tell us a bit about the sort of species that you have over there in Denmark. I mean, you mentioned seagulls, which to us is like completely the most bizarre thing in the entire world. I think they're actually red listed in England.
I know, I'm not sure why. We've got hundreds of them, but they're critically protected or something.
That's what happens, right? Like once they go on that list, it's just so hard to get them back. We have the same issues with the what's it called, the cormorant.
Oh, cormorants, yeah.
Cormorant, yeah. They were on that list. They like years ago, and now they're just like everywhere. And so we're allowed to like manage them. So it's not hunting; it's management. So, but yeah, we have, except for wild boar, which they really don't want in this country. I don't know if you heard about the fence, wild boar fence at the Danish-German border. They tried to, or they have built like a fence to keep the wild boars from coming up from Germany, because I believe like it's politics. Yeah, and if you know wild boar just a little bit, you know they'll find a way. But
God.
it's politics. In my opinion, it's a signal to the Danish farmer, like, we got your back. Keep exporting bacon to the UK. No worries.
I've just Googled it, and it's not what I had in my mind. It's like a proper sort of wire, like 6 foot high, like almost like a prison fence.
Yeah, and it's so stupid because
43 mile long.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's like the sort of wall between them, America and Mexico.
Yeah.
It's like Trumpian. God, that's hilarious.
That was just to keep boar out.
But that didn't work.
No, not really. Sometimes they cross over, but then there's like a lot of focus on, if anyone sees a wild boar, they can like shoot it almost whenever, wherever.
So like there are no seasons for wild boar in Denmark, as in if you see one, you just kill it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Really? Wow. And presumably they're coming from Germany then. So did Denmark not have wild boar beforehand?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Like, back in the days. Yeah. And as far as I know, they made some square holes in the fence for other wildlife to pass through the fence.
Yeah,
but
right.
So maybe the wild boars can pass. I don't know. And also, I've heard and seen videos like they are quite capable swimmers, so they could actually, if they go to the edge of the fence at the beach, they could actually possibly go around. But
they're quite clever, aren't they? I mean, pigs are quite clever, so I'm assuming wild boar are the same.
Yeah. They're just incredible survivors.
Amazing.
So we don't have them, not officially. We do have like roe deer, red deer, fallow, and all like your common small game foxes, of course, ducks, geese, pheasants. A lot of similar to what you guys have, but in a different scale.
Yeah. And it sounds as though like the culture and approach to it from when you came and stayed with us and we were chatting about it is totally different. So am I right in saying if you're a hunter in Denmark, you probably do a bit of everything? You're less kind of like pigeonholed, pardon the pun, than we perhaps are here. Like I wouldn't necessarily call myself a hunter. I'd call myself a deer stalker. I don't really do any driven shooting. I don't do any pigeon shooting. I don't do any wildfowling. I don't do any fishing. But in Denmark, people might cross those lines a bit more.
I'd say like the majority of Danish hunters, they hunt whatever's in season. So in the fall, winter, they will go on like hunts, like bird shoots, and like driven or just rifle shooting. But the majority they do both, or even that shotgun rifle and bow hunting is also more and more popular.
Wow. So presumably then, the standard sort of Danish hunter must have an inordinately larger amount of kit than the sort of British deer stalker. Because if you're doing all of these things, you've got to have, like you say, decent shotgun. You've got to have a couple of different rifles. You've got to have all the clothing to match all the different things. Like, bows and all of that sort of stuff that gets a little bit crazy. Because you've got to cover a lot of disciplines there, haven't you?
Yeah, but I think like for rifles, well, a lot of guys have more than one, of course, but like me, I have one. It's a 308. I know that like the not a very special, like
Best
maybe the
caliber.
most but it's just I'm covered for like most game, even if I want to go to Sweden, Norway, Germany or whatever. So yeah, I also shoot foxes with it if I have to. It might get a bit more messed up. But yeah.
And is the culture in Denmark? Because I know in Germany they're much more. I can't remember what the word. They're much more focused on their rifle shooting than their shotgun shooting, and so therefore the rifles they buy tend to be where they spend the most money. Like therefore in Germany the rifle market is bigger than the shotgun market. Whereas here in the UK, our shotgun market is probably bigger than our rifle market. And if people have a rifle and a shotgun, they've probably spent more on their shotgun than they have their rifle. Is Denmark sort of more similar to Germany than England, or England than Germany?
I'm not totally sure. I think it's a pretty good mix. It depends on sort of what people are like maybe more leaning to. If they're more leaning into bird shooting, they'll have just like decent rifle for when they get that invitation twice a year or whatever, and maybe the other way around as well. Yeah, so I think it's a pretty good mix.
And is it mainly driven shooting that you have over in Denmark, or is there still a lot of sort of spot and stalk like we have in the UK?
A lot of spot and stalk as well. I think that's most common because in like most hunters, Danish hunters, they do both. And I Googled this. We are about 172,000 Danish hunters. And mind you, it's a very small country. And that means that they're like everything over 5 hectares of land. If it's below 5 hectares, you are not allowed to rent it. Only the property owner can hunt. But if it's 5 or above, you can actually rent it out. So I'd say like there's not a lot of land that is not being hunted, and often it's like I split 150-ish hectares with 9 other hunters. So yeah, we wouldn't be able to do a driven hunt. It would be over in like half an hour. So for us it's spot and stalk all the time.
That's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah. We worked it out when you came and stayed, didn't we? Like the number of hunters as a percentage of your population was crazy high. Whereas, and I've literally just Googled it to pull it up, but in the UK, the latest population statistic was we're 66.97 million people. But, and this is from Deer Management Qualifications website, the number of people if you say they've registered to do their deer stalking certificate is 35,000. So if you say, I don't know, there's another 10,000, Harry, that are deer stalkers but haven't done their deer C1, then you're at 45,000. 45,000 is a percentage of 60, let's call it 67 million. It's tiny.
Yeah, and I guess that's why you guys have that problem, luxury problem with all the deer that we don't have, and that like I know I told you guys when I was visiting last time, it's overwhelming, like the hospitality, like getting asked to come and shoot deer for free. It's would be very unusual to get a lot of those invitations here in Denmark, because
did we
don't
forget
have
to send you your bill?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. might be in the spam folder. I don't go there.
Yeah.
It'd be quite high because I think between you and Anders, who also came over, how many muntjac did you tot up? It was sort of like 6 or 8 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I
In the
think
space
he
of
actually
about
won.
2 days.
He won on the numbers, but I won on the best buck. So
Yeah.
I'll take that any day.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So the kind of like percentage of the population that are hunters, I remember when you were with us, you were telling us that the rents people pay to have like the ability to go hunting or stalking on land is like crazy high.
It is like, again, just to be in the situation where you guys are, to be able to shoot deer for free, actually even have like a bit sort of a business model where because you have your certificates and so on, that you can process and sell the meat, and technically making money off shooting deer. That's just very impossible over here.
So like if you were going to rent, say, I don't know, 100 hectares, how much roughly would you have to pay for that in Denmark?
It depends on the species. If and like the area. If the bigger deer species like red or fallow or both are represented, it's expensive. I think you might have to get your calculator out, but I think I'm about 10,000 kroner ish per year to be part of my hunting syndicate. Mind you, there are 9 other guys. I'm sharing 150 hectares.
So that's about 1,100 quid.
Yeah, and I think we got a pretty good deal because one of the guys know the landowner. So even though we have red and fallow and some roe deer, we are actually pretty lucky. It could easily be more expensive.
So this is because I'm quite slow at my maths. So if we're saying it's £1,100 per person, but how many? You say there were 9 people sharing it.
Yeah.
So times that by 9, and then how many? And then over how many hectares?
150-ish. I think it's a bit more, maybe.
150 hectares. So it's £66 a hectare, or in old money, £27 an acre.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it? I mean, when we talk about in the UK, what's on between like £1 and £5 an acre, and you're only really getting more above sort of £2 an acre if you've got pretty seriously decent sort of roebuck or Chinese water deer or something like that. And as you know, a lot of the stalking in the UK people have on a sort of free basis, really. I guess it's all in the statistics, isn't it? And then just the number of people who actually want to go out and do the shooting.
I think another thing that happened here that's sort of also pushing the prices a bit is hunting is actually pretty popular in Denmark, and it's also we don't really have. Well, some people, of course, are against it, but we don't really see that anti-hunting activism that you guys have. It's pretty broadly accepted. I don't really have the link to share with you guys, but I was told that there had been like a European sort of poll, and they found out that Denmark was the country in Europe where hunting is like mostly accepted. And because it's
sorry to interrupt. Why do you think that is?
I think it's due to a cooking show I told you about, and I did my research. I googled that. It's been on since 2014, I believe, 2010 or 2014. It's about a Danish hunter, an older guy called Jørgen, and this TV chef Nikolai. and they sort of team up to go shoot an animal, and it's a different animal every episode. And then like Jan is the hunter, that's his part, and Nikolai follows him. And then otherwise, that afterwards the roles switch, and then it's Nikolai's turn to prepare the meat they've shot, and then Jan sort of gets to be the apprentice in the kitchen. And it's been on forever, and it's on the biggest TV station in Denmark, and it's viewed by tons of people, also non-hunters, and it's extremely popular.
Wow,
that's what we
Yeah.
need.
that is. We need a
yeah.
sort of Clarkson's Farm, don't we,
Yeah.
for the stalking and hunting world? Because if you say to the average person in this country, I'm like a hunter, or particularly if you say I'm a stalker, you know, you start to get some weird looks, and you end up having to defend yourself quite vigorously.
Yeah,
I found myself in really hot water at the weekend. We were out for dinner somewhere, and no, for lunch somewhere. Sorry, and I was with my wife and her parent, or her dad and partner, and we were ordering drinks. And I was like, "Oh no, I'm not drinking, so I'm going out stalking tonight." And the waitress like looked at me as if to be like, "Huh?" And of course, I meant like deer stalking, and I think she thought like, because of course she wouldn't have made that connection. I think she just thought I was just some mentalist basically that was going to go out stalking innocent people.
I have a van out the back. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
You need to be on your best form when you're doing something like that, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, classic.
No, but I'd say like, of course, that TV show has helped like a lot with the understanding of sort of our world. But another thing it's also done is that it has introduced a lot of people to hunting. When I did my course at 16, I'd say everyone except maybe one or two guys on the course, we were there because we were like from a family of hunters. Now it's very common that people come into it like without having it running in the family. It's also becoming like the new golf, like business networking to go hunting together.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but that also, I'm not gonna like, it's not that I'm crying about it, but that also means like all of a sudden like there's a new type of hunter coming in, and he's not like Mark, a student at 16 who is basically broke, and the first rifle I bought was from my grandmother's brother, like really old used one, because that was what I could afford. Now it's like businessmen going in, picking from the top shelf Blaser, Swarovski. Oh, this looks nice. And then they're like, okay, so I need a place to hunt. And that's also like pushing the prices a bit, because we only have so much land.
And presumably it's impacting on the numbers of species available to actually go out and hunt, in terms of sort of what's available. Is there, do you have limits and kind of like tags, or how does that sort of work in Denmark?
No, you sort of, that's also like in some areas, the neighboring hunters are good at like making a set of rules that applies for everyone. Like say they want to do something to get better roadblocks, they might agree on saving promising 4-pointers or whatever. But in general, you're free to make your own rules. We have like a limit for each of the deer species that is agreed with our landowner, but mostly it's up to like the individual to decide. And that's also something like that also affects the population in a bad way. Say if some guy has just a perfect little field in between some really big areas where the roebucks tend to cross, he can just sit there and like pick them out and maybe, you know, shoot more than he should, but no one can really like say anything. So yeah.
So interesting, isn't it?
Really interesting, because we sort of always think like the grass is greener on the other side, and like listening to you say that hunting is much more widely accepted in Denmark, I'm kind of sat here being like, I really wish it was more widely accepted here. But then actually, when you then say how difficult it is to get land, how expensive it is, etc., you think, well, actually, maybe we've got it good over here.
Yeah. When you're not bumping into dog walkers or people on horseback, and
yeah,
it's so interesting, isn't it? The numbers thing. Because I mean, sorry, go on.
No. I'm just a bit curious with you guys, because I think both of you possibly shoot more deer in 1 or 2 years than maybe the average Danish hunter would in his lifetime. And I was thinking if it sometimes like affects how like your like the your passion for, or like how much you like you want it. I can say like with the amount of deer I shoot every year, I'm always hungry. I'm never full, because I can shoot one roebuck and one red or fallow stag a year at my place, and if I'm lucky to do so. So yeah, I don't really get the numbers you guys do. So I'm just curious. Don't you ever like get tired of shooting deer?
Go on, Harry, you take this first.
Well, I think we've probably got quite a similar view, in that yes is the short answer, especially in the doe season for the fallows. You know, you get into sort of after Christmas, like, you know, kind of January, February, March, hell of a slog. And you've seen the numbers of deer that we have over here in this country, and you know, trying to manage them, especially later in the season where they get more wary, so you have to work harder, and you've got to go and shoot X number, because, you know, whilst over in Denmark you have sort of limits, we almost have the opposite here, where you know, a lot of shooting leases will have a minimum cull target, and if you don't hit that cull target, you could lose your lease. So you know, you're under a lot of pressure to actually go out and do it. And yeah, when it's horrible pissing with rain, middle of February, the last thing you want to do is get up at, you know, 5:30 in the morning and go out and shoot two fallow does and drag them, you know, up a muddy hill covered in mud, stinking. I think, Tom, last year, kind of, you got to the stage where you were like a bit done with it, weren't you? Really, I haven't actually got to the stage where I was done with it, but Tom, I think you had a bit of a sense of humour failure last year.
Yeah, I so last year I took on the kind of lease of a place, and they said, right, we want 100 fallow killed, and I think I probably started in August being like, yeah, this is gonna be so much fun, but it's only once you like sit down, and for us, like the season for male starts in August and finishes in April, but really like the bulk of the work gets done in the doe season from November to March. So you've only got like what, 4 or 5 months. So if you work out then how many like weeks that is, days that is, and to try and get 100 deer over that period, I think I worked out basically, even if I spread it through August to April, I had to kill 4 deer a week, which is quite like and you put it like that, you're like, oh God, that's actually quite a lot.
Yeah.
Especially if you factor in like 1 or 2 weeks, you might not go out because you might be on holiday, or I don't know, you might not see anything, or you might be ill, whatever. It adds quite a lot of pressure on. And I mean, I did make it, and I think I made it to 111 or something in the end. But Harry's right. By the end of March, literally, I'd go out in the mornings and be like, I really hope I don't see anything, because I can't be bothered to shoot it, gralloch it, and drag it back to the car, and then put it in the chiller. And it became this kind of just like almost like autopilot cycle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I've got to try and do something a little bit different this season, otherwise I'm going to burn out again.
Yeah, because that, I guess that's the thing, right? When your passion sort of becomes a job in a way. I had the same, like when I had been working at Outfit International for like 6 months, and I realized that, okay, so all I talk about now is hunting, like hunting coals. What we talk about during lunch breaks, where we're going to hunt this weekend, it's everything. And I sort of got like this, okay, I hope I don't like sort of ruin my passion for it by like getting too much. But I haven't.
Yeah. You
So
haven't. That's good.
I was about to say, so how have you solved that? And was that a consideration for you when you went for the job in the first place? Were you sort of thinking, or this is great because I'm going to get to talk about the thing I love all day, or were you thinking this has got the potential to jade it?
And I totally jumped into it. I was like, awesome! I'm gonna talk about hunting all day. And now I think I don't know if I'm used to it, but I also do appreciate the colleagues I have that do not have a hunting license. So you can have a lunch where you just talk about what you did in your summer break or whatever. I yeah. So it's not always hunting.
Yeah. And
And
sorry, Harry, go on.
no, you go.
I can say tell us a bit more about your role at Outfit.
Yeah, sure. So I am mainly working with the brand called Sealand, which is sort of our more like commercial brand, where Harkila is more the high end. And my role as the like is how can I say this? I do tend to get a lot of hats. No, but it's definitely I work with developing the campaigns for the products. I also help our design department sort of developing designs, styles, which is really interesting, and I get to test a lot of stuff. And that I think that's also how we sort of met each other, Tom. I wanted to do more like real hunting content and not so much like model shoots. That's how I got in touch with the company. I knew the photographer, and he asked me if I could be a model for Harkila, and then as you saw, suddenly I was all over the place. And then I started as a social media manager, and then they sort of wanted me to take the other role as a like brand marketing manager instead. And it's awesome. So the new thing for us is when we can less photo shoot like modeling and more like longer YouTube formats, more real hunting content, like the video we did where you helped us with. We did a campaign for our a whale women stalking outfit with 3 influencers who came to UK to shoot some roadblocks. That was awesome.
It was really good fun. I've got to admit, I got home the day after and I was absolutely knackered, but I had a huge smile on my face. I think from memory, did we hunt on Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday night, Saturday morning, and then go home? Was that what we did?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I know we ended on a morning, and I saw my chance to sneak out with you with a rifle because we had all the video and photos we needed. So I did a morning stalk and then came back to the hotel, and I was like, oh, I'm the one driving us back to the airport. I was so done. But we made it.
It was seriously good fun. Seriously fun.
And it's I think it's the best campaign we've done so far, because I think that's what people want, because we've previously done catalogs, but that's extremely expensive, and it's also hard to sort of track how effective it is. So we do a lot more on social media, but I guess like you guys know as well, that's not easy, because like Instagram, Facebook, they are not really fond of blood guns, dead animals, like everything that's basically a part of hunting. So we sort of moved over to YouTube, which seems sort of more liberal in that way.
Yeah. So the big question is, are you going to come over this March and do a fallow deer campaign and help Harry and I out? Bring some influencers or models or whatever, and they can do the hard work for us and shoot all the fallow deer.
We'll be totally burnt out by then, so
Yeah.
we'll be desperate to have some help.
Let's see what we can do. We need to help you guys get the numbers in.
Yeah.
It might be a bit miserable sort of filming in February, March time, but good test for clothing, I suppose, isn't it?
Exactly.
Show what you can do with the Sealand kit.
Yeah.
And
sure.
what's the sort of what's coming out for Sealand? Have we got anything you can share with our listeners?
I think maybe it's a bit funny to do it on you guys' podcast because, as you said, you are big on rifle stalking. But I wanted to give a shout out to our new Hillside tweed collection. I know you guys are not. I don't know about you, Harry, but
I love a bit of tweed. I'm desperate
good.
for some tweed.
I think it's just recently come out, the Hillside, both for men and women. We had Faye and this awesome gamekeeper called Niall do the modeling, and we also we did a video shoot with Faye on her beta stay. I still need to edit that video, but yeah, it's really awesome. It looks just the right way, but it's still at a price where you can actually buy a full set of tweed and still have money to pay for the birds afterwards.
I'm just looking at it now. It looks really smart.
Yeah,
it does. That looks fantastic. I might have to try some of that. Do you think? Do you think you take some of that up to Scotland stalking as well, or is that mainly sort of bird focused?
I think our campaign is a lot of bird focused, but we do have a nice Scottish colleague, and he told me that it wasn't completely off in the color to be used in Scotland, as far as I can remember.
Excellent.
Otherwise,
Excellent.
I'm just yeah.
I'll have to have a look at that. That looks fantastic.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, for sure. Maybe you can test it. We could do it.
Brilliant.
A product test.
Yeah, sounds great.
You're up for that.
Definitely.
There you go, Harry. Just sounds like
you
you got yourself your winter stalking gear.
Got a job. Yeah, perfect. Very nice. And you've got some very nice new sort of puffer things out as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I think we are design-wise, we are thinking a lot about layering, because I think you guys, just as we've had, the weather's just so it changes all the time. The sun's out, then it rains, wind. So I think not only in the hunting industry, but every outdoor industry, I think it's going to be a lot about layering, because you want to be able to put on an extra layer if it's cold, and when the sun then decides to pop out of half an hour later, you want to be able to take it off. So layers and packable stuff, light stuff.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, definitely. I think that's really important.
You've just described the average English day, Mark, where it's raining 1 minute, sunny the next minute, then it's a bit grey. That's just every day over here.
It's extremely annoying, right? But it's good for us. More layers, more products. That's more money, I guess. So that's fine.
Yeah. So, talking of more products, and you're probably one of our guests that actually we remembered to warn about this. One of the segments of our podcast we do is called Bobby's Bits. And I'm hoping all the listeners and the backstory by now. So I'm not going to explain how we came up with it, slightly dodgy sounding name, but the key to it is what bit of kit, hunting kit, could you not live without? But equally, is there a bit of hunting kit you're desperate to get your hands on, and if so, what is it?
I I've been thinking a lot about this because I like, as you guys, I love kit, I love gear, gadgets, all of that. But I also sort of became I'm starting to get a bit like conservative, and I wanted to be more like minimalistic when I'm going out. So I don't know. I listened to your last episode that recently came out with what is his Mike
Mike
Robinson.
Robinson.
Yeah, really, he sounded really awesome. He mentioned like a proper like stalking vehicle if I could get that, but that's another thing that's impossible over here. Like big like trucks, you can't pay for them. It's so expensive. Cars in Denmark are super expensive, and you pay like an extra sort of fee for the weight and also for how much they pollute, which means like a proper Hilux or Nissan Patrol or whatever you want, it's just gonna be, even though if the car is not that expensive, like the extra fees you have to pay yearly, yeah, it makes them.
Wow, I had no idea.
It's
That's really interesting.
yeah. So if I could get, I feel like at least the character I imagine myself being should have a proper stocking vehicle. So
Yeah.
yeah,
A proper
that would
pickup.
be it.
And what's the bit of kit you have but couldn't live without?
I'd say the Viper Flex. Yeah. Also, yeah, maybe it's a bit like on second place. I would say the Jägersmith you showed me. I bought one right after I came back from visiting you guys. I think it's brilliant. It's just like, because you know deers, they don't really come with any good handles to to drag. So I think it's just, it makes the job so much easier.
Yeah.
And I
It's
don't
brilliant.
like, I don't drag as many deer out as you guys do, but I think like, yeah, brilliant
When
tool.
you need it, don't you? That's the thing.
It was
Um,
you, Harry, who showed it to me because you bought one. So then I saw how awesome it was. So I was like, oh my God, I need one. So I went out and bought one. I showed it to Mark. He bought it. Where did you see it in the first place, Harry?
I think I saw it on like the stalking directory or on one of those Facebook pages or something
Yeah.
like that. Very randomly, and then I think it might only be Monarch who sell them. Monarch, I think
Yeah.
Monarch Country Sports in this country. And yeah, picked one up at the stalking show, and they're absolutely brilliant. Another sort of German developed product that
Yeah.
someone thought, oh, they use it for boar, why don't they use it for deer? And yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. We actually ought to do a sort of table of the most mentioned things on Bobby's bits, because I think Viperflex would be by far and away the number one. I
Yeah.
think probably 50% of our guests have said Viperflex sticks, absolutely indispensable, which is really interesting.
And like so today I put out a bit of a post on Instagram because really embarrassingly last night I missed a deer. And I went out this morning and checked, and the rifle was absolutely perfect. So I was clearly just being a complete buffoon. But really interestingly, loads of people use the Viperflex in totally different ways, and there's so many like little hacks that people are starting to like come out the woodwork with. So Mike, who we had on the last podcast, was saying put a bit of in pipe insulation on the front rest because it makes it a bit more sort of cushiony, and therefore, especially if you've got a rounded bottom rifle on the fore end, it kind of sinks into it. He also has the fifth leg on the back rather than the front. And you were saying on your Viperflex, the kind of back cradle, you lock it into the pistol grip, which I tried this morning, and is like it's so much better. I don't know why no one tells you this.
Because it doesn't like really tip to the sides. It's way more steady that way. Yeah.
Do you know what you really need though, Tom?
Go on.
Blaster sticks.
See,
why?
I asked the question on Instagram, should I go out and try them? Because my part of my issue last night, this is what I'm going to blame it on, is I don't find my kit plow goes very well with the Viperflex sticks because the front shelf is so flat and like completely uncushioned, whereas the kit plow is very, very round and almost like triangular on the bottom. So I find it does sort of like it naturally wants to flop onto one side. And I rushed a shot that was really close range, and I think as I was like moving the gun on the sticks, it literally just like flopped, and that was that. So I did say, should I try Blaser? Because of course they've got a nice cradle at the front. Some people thought it was a great idea, but some people were very vocal and said they didn't think it was a good idea. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Oh,
a few people were very rude about the Blaser sticks, but you really like them, don't you?
I initially was very skeptical of them, and I went in with a really quite sort of open mind, I thought, about them, and I like them now. Took a month or two to get used to them, but I think they're brilliant. They're probably not. We've done a bit of a test between them and the Viperflex, and I think the Viperflex. I think we kind of came to the conclusion that it's sort of personal preference, but the Viperflex really are probably the better product, sort of quality, etc. But no, I like them. I like the pivoty thing, which is the real selling point.
One person did come up with a really good idea on Instagram, and this is the one thing I really like about Instagram, is they said, why don't you just find someone who can 3D print you something that clips over the front rest on a Viperflex that basically has some sort of V in it.
Because then you don't get any pan.
You're
just locked in. What you'd have to.
You might just have to like jiggle the sticks around a bit, yeah.
But if you like, what I do with my Viperflex is I hold the rifle with my right hand, right? I'm right-hand shooter. Sorry, second language.
Yeah, in fairness, you have got that excuse. Yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah, and
we'll let you have that one.
I use the other hand to sort of like lift the leg a little bit. And then you can sort of like go from side to side all you want. But yeah, they do have that piece where you can sort of like push your rifle a little bit from side to side. That's really nice.
So if anyone's listening and has a 3D printer and thinks they can make me some sort of Ujima flip to go on the front rest, then please can you get in touch? Because I'd love one.
I think the kit talk, it's really interesting because in a way, actually, honestly, when Viperflex came out, I was like, you don't need that. That's only if you're a poor shot. And then I tried one and I was like, okay, this really works. But I am pretty conservative in general. I don't have a rangefinder. We are not allowed to use any sort of thermal aid in Denmark, which I also thought, like when first time I visited you guys and I saw you all had your like spotters, I was like, isn't that cheating? But then I found out, okay, you actually have to like do some management, shoot some numbers, so you need to be more effective. And because of that, it makes like a lot of sense. But in general, I don't like it when kit replaces skills too much, because people tend not to practice because they will just buy some sort of gadget that can help them out.
Yeah.
And I think like from the like hunter's perspective, I think it should always be about like the skills, not the kit.
I think that's a very good point. And fieldcraft is much more valuable than sort of tech, and these things. It's just always more to go wrong, isn't it? And more batteries and things to leave at home, and all of these sort of things that if you really, really need it and it doesn't work, then suddenly you look like a bit of an idiot. So no, I think that is a really valid point.
I think you see it like with ballistic turrets, you see that a lot, like people are trying on longer distances, even though they're not that experienced, because they think, oh, it's on 200, so I'll just go up to 200. But they are not really aware of all of the other factors that also play in when you double the range. So yeah, I love it, but I think it's really important to like keep your skills, like practice your shooting, try stalking instead of just taking the long shot.
Yeah, and learn how to use the basics before you move on to that kind of stuff. I've probably
Exactly.
bored both of you with this story before, but and I'll try and keep this as anonymous as possible. But there's a local or relatively local rifle range to us, just on the outskirts of our capital city. And I was there one day practicing, and some guy rocked up with his new Blaser rifle and a scope from a very, very well-known high-end scope manufacturer. And he'd been told it was the latest model that's got all the kind of digital stuff in it, and he'd been told that you basically plug all your stuff into an app, and the rifle scope does all the rest of it for you. So he literally put this scope on the rifle, put all his data in the app, synced it to the scope, and literally just took a shot at the target, thinking that was it, like the scope would just be zeroed. And of course it wasn't. And he hadn't even like bore sighted it, anything, and he was winging rounds off down range. And it was only when one of the range instructors came over to him and was like, I can't see any splash in the sand anywhere like around the target. What exactly are you aiming at? And he's like, well, the target. And they're like, well, where are your bullets going then? He's like, well, I don't know, because I've set up the scope using this app. And they were like, oh, no. You need to zero your scope first, and then all the app does is make the ballistic corrections for you. So he was on the outskirts of London flinging, I can't remember if it was a 308 but something equivalent rounds to that off into the distance, off into the capital city. So yeah, you got to know how to do the basics.
Please don't be that guy.
Yeah, don't be that guy.
No.
So there we go.
No,
Thank you very much for joining us, Mark. As per usual, I can't believe we've been chatting for over an hour. So thank you very much for being so generous with your time. Especially, are you an hour ahead of us?
Yeah, but it's my off time now because the kid goes to bed at 8, so I might stay up a bit.
So we've probably actually done you a favor and meant that you missed out at bedtime.
Yeah, and I didn't have to tuck her in. My girlfriend did that, so thank you guys.
Anytime, Mark.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Mark. And I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, you too. I'll have to come over and help you guys out.
Yeah. Look forward to it.